Hello, friends. In this lesson, we're going to learn about idioms and expressions in American English that come from conflict and war. So the metaphor here is that life is a conflict or life is a war. What is conflict? Conflict is a situation in which people, groups, or countries disagree strongly or are involved in a serious argument. So sometimes this is war, sometimes it's just a strong disagreement. But the idea is that two people are somehow fighting against each other, or two groups of people or two countries are fighting each other. So when we make idioms and expressions from this idea, there are people that are fighting against each other, or it's a person fighting against life itself somehow. Now, American culture has always been fascinated or thought about war and conflict. It's built into our country's history. From the Revolutionary War, where we became independent, to the Civil War, where America almost broke apart, to World War I, where we started getting involved in wars across the world, to World War II, where we started to feel like we were the good guys fighting against evil, to the Vietnam War, where America started to get confused about what it was doing, to the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, where Americans started getting tired of war. Americans are so fascinated with war that we even look at countries and empires and cultures in the past and think of them almost like they're part of our own history. From Greek warfare to the Roman Empire, to the Crusades, to even the wars in Europe. So to look at the idioms and expressions here, we're going to look at some different aspects or parts of war and look at the expressions we get from those different parts. So the first idea here is the conflict. What is the conflict? Other words for conflict are battle, war, or struggle. So we see many expressions that use the words battle, war, or struggle when we're using this idea of conflict. So the first expression here is to choose your battles or to pick your battles, or sometimes we'll say choose your battles wisely. This expression means to choose not to waste your time or energy with arguments or problems that are not important. For example, when you are a parent, you need to pick your battles with your kids wisely, or you will be fighting with them all the time and cause yourself a lot of stress. So the idea here is that you are involved in a war. You might be a war with your children or with your spouse or whatever. You're not actually in a war, but you're kind of thinking of the situation that way. So in this war with your children or with your spouse or whatever, you have these battles, and the battles are the little fights that you have, the little arguments, right? So we have to pick our battles wisely, meaning we have to choose when we're going to argue about something or when we're not going to argue about something. So if you have kids, you can argue with your kids about, 100 different things each day. But if you argued with them about everything, then you would have no time for anything else and you'd be angry all the time. So you have to decide, do I really want to argue about this right now? When you're trying to decide what to argue about, you're picking your battles, right? Because the battle is one fight in a big war. And this expression gets used quite a bit actually with husbands and wives. So they'll tell a husband or a wife, they'll say, you have to pick your battles. Like what is worth arguing about for you? To fight an uphill battle or to talk about an uphill battle is something that is difficult and takes a lot of effort over a long period of time. For example, I'm terrible at math, so I have a real uphill battle ahead of me if I want to improve my grade in algebra. So if you're fighting in a war, you really don't want to go uphill. You don't want to go up a hill because it's going to take a lot of energy and time to get up the hill, and the people at the top have an advantage. So it's easier for them at the top to attack you than it is for you to attack them. So if you want to fight uphill, it's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of work and a lot of difficulty. So in life, we can describe anything that is difficult or takes a lot of time or effort as an uphill battle. So if math is hard, then math might be an uphill battle for you. If losing weight is hard, then you can say losing weight is an uphill battle. The front lines, or being on the front lines, it's the place or the area of activity where important, interesting, or difficult things are happening. For example, emergency room doctors and nurses are on the front lines of life-saving medical care every day. So the idea here is that in a war, the first people in the army that are going to attack are the people that are on the front line. So this is the front line. It's the front of the army, and the people are lined up. So this is the front line. In a battle, the people on the front line are the ones who have to do most of the fighting, and this is when most of the people are going to get hurt or die, the people on the front lines. So these are the people that are really working the hardest in a battle. So when we say that somebody's on the front lines, we mean that they're doing a job that's very difficult or interesting. They're the first people to deal with a problem. And so this gets used quite a bit with doctors and nurses, especially now with COVID-19 around. You'll hear this expression a lot. You can say, oh, thank you to the frontline workers, or the people on the front lines. So these are the ones who are dealing with the sick people first. If they work in the emergency room, then they're the front lines of the hospital, because the emergency room is usually the first place that really badly injured or badly sick people go to. The next aspect of war is planning. So we have to plan how we're going to do war, and we have to plan how we're going to do life, if we view life as a war. So the first word here, it's not an expression, it's just a word, and the word is strategy. Strategy is a noun. The verb form is strategize, the adjective form is strategic, and the adverb form is strategically. So any one of these words, these are actually words that come from war. They come from the military. Because the word strategy actually comes from the name of one of the leaders in an army, like a general or something. It's an old word. Now, we use the word strategy for any kind of planning, really, like long-term planning. So the word strategy means a long-range plan, or a long-term, long time, plan for achieving something or reaching a goal. For example, they had to come up with a strategy if they wanted their business to be successful. So people will use this word in business quite a bit. They might use it in education. Like if you're a student, you have to have a strategy for taking tests or a strategy for studying, things like that. So this is it's a very commonly used word in English in some situations, but it originally comes from war, from armies. The next word here is tactic or tactics. So we can use this many different ways. We can switch tactics. We can change tactics. We can have a different tactic or a new tactic. But basically a tactic is a planned way of doing something. So the strategy is the whole plan. It's the whole plan. The tactic is one specific part of the plan. It's how you're going to do one specific thing. For example, if you fail a test, you might want to change study tactics so that it doesn't happen again. So the tactic is one part of the strategy. So what are you going to do right now? What are you going to do to study for your test? Or what are you going to do to get this job? That's the tactic that you're using. But again, tactic is a word that originally came from war or from warfare. The next part of war that we're going to look at is attacking. So which expressions and idioms come from attacking? The first one is to pick a fight. This is a very general term. So the fight is the thing that you're doing, the argument or the disagreement. And the verb that we use with this a lot is pick. So you pick a fight. So to pick a fight is to intentionally start a fight. You're starting a fight on purpose. For example, some kids were teasing him trying to pick a fight. And we can see here in the picture, one kid is pushing the other kid. So maybe this one wants to start a fight. And this one is being picked on. And that's another phrase we'll use is if somebody is being bullied, or if other people try to pick fights with them, we can say that, like this kid right here, we can say he's being picked on. He's being picked on. So this kid will say he's picking the fight, right? And this one is being picked on. Kids pick on him all the time at school. And that's where that's coming from, right there. Similar to this is the expression to put up a fight. So picking a fight is starting the fight. Now, once you're already fighting, if you continue to fight, if you continue to struggle, fight, or resist, then you are putting up a fight. You're putting up the fight. That means you're continuing to do it. For example, kids always put up a fight when you try to get them to eat vegetables. So we can think of dinner time. You're a family and you're sitting at the table, you're the parent, and you want your kids to eat vegetables. Your kid doesn't want to eat the vegetables, right? So this is one of your battles, right? So you say, it's really important that he eats his vegetables or she eats their vegetables, her vegetables. So this is going to be one of my battles, right? I'm going to pick this battle. Now, if your child argues with you and they say, no, I don't want to eat it, right? Then they are putting up a fight. That means they're continuing to fight with you. So you're looking at your dinner at the table as kind of like a little battle that you're having between the parent and the child. Another expression here is to fight tooth and nail. Okay, this it's kind of a fun and interesting one because we're talking about when a fight gets very, very difficult. So fight tooth and nail means to try very hard to get something you want, to try very hard. So how hard? We are using our teeth and our nails to fight. So you can see here these two guys in the picture. They have no weapons. They're just fighting with each other. So on your fingers, you have your fingernails, right? So you're using your fingernails as weapons and you're using your teeth as weapons to try to win the fight. So to fight tooth and nail means you're using everything that you have to win the fight. So for example, I had to fight tooth and nail to get a raise at work. Now, if you're trying to get a raise at work, you're probably not going to actually physically fight with your manager or your boss. And you're definitely not going to use your teeth and your nails to fight that person, right? But we can fight tooth and nail when we're saying we're trying very hard to do something or to get what we want. The next aspect of war we're going to look at are the weapons. So the main weapon in modern warfare is the gun, and we're actually not going to talk about guns in this video. That will be in the next lesson video. We have a whole lesson dedicated to guns. But in this one, we're going to look at some of the other weapons and the expressions we get from them. The first one is a powder keg. So to talk about a powder keg or to say that something is a powder keg, it means it's a situation that is dangerous and that could become violent. So before we had regular bullets that we put in the guns, people with guns would use gunpowder. So it's like a dust or like a powder that explodes. So they would have to physically put the gunpowder in the gun before they put the ball in there to shoot. Now they would store the gunpowder in these barrels called powder kegs. So it's gunpowder. It's a barrel of gunpowder. So we call it a powder keg. Now, if you have gunpowder, this thing is filled with gunpowder. If it gets too hot or if there's a fire or something, this whole thing's going to explode. So it's a very dangerous situation. So any situation in life that is dangerous and that could become violent, we can call that a powder keg. For example, our house was always a powder keg when Dad came home drunk. So this is unfortunately an experience that many people have growing up if they have a parent or parents who drink a lot of alcohol or drink too much. And so let's say Dad comes home and he's very, very drunk. He's drunk too much alcohol. And maybe he gets very angry or very violent when he does that. Then if he comes home drunk, maybe he's not angry yet, but he could very easily get angry and start yelling, start breaking things, start hitting people. So the situation is very dangerous. It's not bad right now, but it could become very, very bad. So we can call that a powder keg because this barrel of gunpowder could very easily blow up, just like the situation. The next one here is to call something a minefield. So a minefield is a situation that contains a lot of hidden problems and dangers. For example, buying a used car can be a minefield of repairs and unpredictable costs. So a minefield is an area of land where an army or a government has buried these little bombs in the ground called landmines. So these landmines are buried in the ground and there's lots and lots and lots of them. So Often some military or some government will do this to make it so nobody wants to cross the land, like a border or something like that. So the whole area that is filled with these mines that are buried that you can't see them. They're all over the place, but you can't see them. So we would call this a minefield. Because you can't see them, if you try to walk through it, you're possibly going to step on one and blow up. And this still happens in the world today, unfortunately. But any situation that we go into that has a lot of hidden problems, we can call that situation a minefield. Like if you buy a used car. The car might look very nice on the outside. It might even drive pretty good, but you never know what kinds of problems the car might have if it's a used car. So we can call that used car a minefield because there might be lots and lots of problems with the car that you can't see, and you'll only find out by driving the car. Another expression here is a bombshell. So a bombshell, literally a bombshell is this. This is a bomb, right? So the thing that the bomb is in, we call the bombshell. The shell is the outside of it. So a bombshell as an expression has a couple meanings, actually. The first one is a shocking piece of news. So any kind of news that's really shocking or surprising, we can call it a bombshell. And often you'll hear the verb drop. So they dropped a bombshell because, like you can see here in the picture, this plane is dropping the bombshell. So if there's any kind of shocking or interesting, surprising piece of news, we can say, oh, they dropped a bombshell, or there was a bombshell report. For example, he dropped a bombshell when he announced he would resign. So this is surprising or sudden news. This is the first meaning of bombshell. The second meaning is actually a very beautiful woman. So we can call a very beautiful woman a bombshell. For example, wow, who's the bombshell in the red dress over there, right? It's kind of interesting that one is a shocking piece of news and one is a very beautiful woman. Now, actually, they made a movie called Bombshell, and the title of the movie Bombshell is actually using both definitions of bombshell, the shocking piece of news and a very beautiful woman, because the movie is about some female reporters at Fox News who were accusing one of the bosses at Fox News of sexual harassment. So the bombshell was the surprising news, the shocking news that the boss was sexually harassing these women. It was a big bombshell news story. But also these women were very beautiful women and blonde. Usually blonde women are referred to as bombshells. So they were beautiful women, and it was a shocking piece of news. So this movie, the title was actually using both meanings of bombshell. The next expression here is to be up in arms. So to be up in arms just means to be angry or upset. And we usually use it for groups of people. For example, the students were up in arms when the teacher announced an unexpected test. So here the word arms is actually meaning the weapons. So whenever you see a group of people like raising weapons up, whether it's guns or swords or knives or whatever, they are up in arms, like they're raising their weapons in the air. So anytime anybody's angry or upset, we can say they're up in arms. The next aspect of war we're going to look at is defending. So the first expression here or word is just the word to defend. So we can defend someone or we can defend something. And this just means to protect someone or something from attack or harm. And this is a very literal meaning, to defend somebody. But when we're using this language, we're using it like we're thinking of the situation like the situation is a war. For example, it would be hard to run for political office because you would have to constantly defend yourself from attacks against your work, your character, and your family. So we can see the word attacks here. We can see the word defend. That means we're thinking of this situation of running for political office or being a politician. We're thinking of it like it's a war, right? And so you have to defend yourself. You have to defend your family. You have to defend your character, which is like your morality, from the attacks. So you're defending, and we can say the media, the news, they're attacking. Your people who are running against you are attacking. So we're viewing the situation like it's a war. Related to this is the word to be defensive or to be on the defensive. So defend is a verb. Defensive is an adjective. So when we call somebody defensive, or we say that they are on the defensive, we mean that they feel criticized and they quickly try to explain themselves. For example, the student started to get upset and defensive when the teacher asked why he didn't do his homework. So here the student is trying to defend themselves because they feel like they're being attacked. And so they usually try to explain why they did what they did or make excuses, right? So they're acting defensive. They're being defensive. The next expression here is to hold down the fort. So this is a defensive thing. So a fort is like another word for a base. A fort used to be a smaller place that was like a military base. So to hold down the fort, literally it means to defend. The hold down here means to defend. So defend the fort. Now we use this expression to mean to have responsibility for something while someone else is absent. For example, I've got to go out of town for a meeting. Can you hold down the fort while I'm gone? So people will use this expression like if you're leaving home and you're telling your wife to take care of everything at home, you say, hold down the fort. Or if a wife leaves and tells her husband to take care of the house and the children, she might say, hold down the fort. Or at work, somebody might use this at work. If the boss is leaving and he wants somebody else to take care of business while he's gone, he'll say, hey, Bob, can you hold down the fort while I'm out? So it just means to take responsibility for something while someone else is absent or gone. To hold or to stand your ground is to refuse to change your opinion or to give in to an argument. For example, I kept trying to get my grandmother to find a smaller house, but she stood her ground. So the idea here is that when you're in the military, you are defending the ground. So this area, this is your area you're defending. That's your ground. And you're supposed to stand there to fight in case anybody wants to fight. You have to stand there or hold it. To hold it means to protect or defend it, like hold down the fort. So to stand your ground or to hold your ground, just basically it means to not change your mind about something, not change your opinion, or not give in to an argument. So if somebody's trying to get you to change your mind about something and you refuse to change your mind or you don't want to change your mind, then you are standing your ground. You're just protecting your opinion or you're protecting your stance or belief on something. So holding your ground or standing your ground, this is protecting it. Now, when you lose ground, then that means you're losing whatever it is you're trying to defend or protect. So to lose ground means to lose support, popularity, or an advantage in a situation. For example, it seems like police are losing ground in the fight to keep drugs out of schools and neighborhoods. So if the military, if the soldier is trying to protect this area and then somebody else comes and attacks it, if they attack and this guy, let's say he has to run away, he has to go somewhere else, then he lost the ground. He's losing ground. So we use this expression when anybody's losing support, when they're becoming less popular, or if they lose an advantage in a situation that they're in. So in the example here, the police are the ones losing ground to the drugs or the war on drugs. And with drugs, we actually talk about it. We call it the war on drugs. To have someone's back is to be willing and prepared to help or defend someone or to look out for someone else in case they need assistance. For example, you can always trust a good friend to have your back in case anything bad happens. So the idea here is that when you have soldiers fighting, in order to protect each other, they might stand back to back so that this guy can protect this way and this guy can protect this way. So this guy doesn't have to worry about what's behind him because his friend has his back. So we use this a lot with friendship. We can use it with coworkers. Basically, if anybody's helping us or defending us from someone else or something else, then if you're in an argument with somebody, you ask your friend, hey, do you have my back? That means, will you defend me in this situation? Similar to this is to shield someone from something, to shield them. So the shield is this tool that is used in old warfare. We don't really use them anymore. So the shield is a way to defend. So when you're shielding someone from something, you are protecting them from some kind of harm. For example, people buy insurance to shield themselves from financial problems in case of an accident. So insurance helps to shield you. It protects you from money problems in case something bad happens, right? So it's similar to having someone's back, except in this one, you have two people. One person is defending another person. In this one person is acting like the shield, or they're protecting something, or a thing can protect you. Like in this case, insurance is the shield. The next expression here is to lie low, or to keep a low profile. This expression means to keep yourself hidden or inconspicuous. Basically make it so people can't see you very easily. So to lie low, you can see these guys here. They're laying on the ground. So they are lying. They're lying down. They're laying down. And they're low. They're low to the ground. They do this to make it difficult for people to hit them when they shoot, right? Because if you're small, if you're low to the ground, it's going to be harder to shoot you. So you might lie low or keep a low profile. It means the same thing. The profile is what people see from the side. That's your profile. So this is this guy's profile. This is his profile. This is his profile. It's the outline that you can see from the side. So to keep a low profile means that you are low to the ground so that all people can see is this part right here. They can't see really your legs or your arms very well. So how do we use this one? For example, after the actor Shia LaBeouf or LaBeouf, I can't remember which one it is. He's an actor anyway. When the actor Shia LaBeouf was arrested for being drunk in public, he tried to lie low for a while until people mostly forgot about it. But he hasn't been able to keep a low profile because he keeps doing the same thing over and over again. So if you're trying to not get noticed by other people, if you don't want them to notice something that you're doing, or even to notice that you're there, we can call it lying low or keeping a low profile. And if you watch the video that had the expressions that come from airplanes, there was an expression to fly under the radar. This is very similar to that. To lie low or keep a low profile is like flying under the radar. The next expression here is in the trenches. Now this one is like being on the front lines, but the idea is a little bit different. So in the trenches is working in the most active and difficult parts of a job or business. For example, many company owners don't know what it's like for normal workers because the boss isn't in the trenches every day like the workers are. So if you are in the trenches, that means you're actually in the war, you're in the battle. The trench is this here. If you look at this picture, like in World War I, the soldiers often fought in trenches. So the trench is like the hole. It's like a long hole that they dig in the ground. This is the trench. And they would fight in these trenches because then the people that are shooting at them, they can't really see anything. Maybe they can see the top of their head or something like that. So it's a way to protect themselves. But this was a very dangerous place to be because if there's a bomb or something else, then these guys are all going to die. So when we say in the trenches, we're talking about the most active and difficult part of a job or a situation. So these guys are in the trenches. That means these ones are actually fighting in a difficult situation. So sometimes you might hear them say that the doctors and the nurses are on the front lines. Sometimes they might say that they're in the trenches. The next aspect of war that we're going to look at is retreating. Retreating just means running away or leaving the battle. So one expression we get from this is to burn your bridges. To burn your bridges means to ruin or to destroy any way of returning to a previous place or situation. For example, when you quit a job, don't burn all your bridges with your boss and coworkers because you never know if you might need to come back in the future. So this expression comes from in history, when an army was retreating, when an army was leaving a place and they had to cross a bridge, they would burn the bridge so that the army they were fighting with can't follow them. So they would burn the bridge so that nobody could follow them. Now, when we talk about burning bridges now, we're meaning ruining a way of going back to where you came from, going back to a situation or going back to a job. So we could use this one with work. We could use it with a relationship. Like if you're breaking up with somebody, you don't want to break up in a really bad way, because you never know if you might want to go back and be with that person again. The next aspect of war here is defeat. So when we get defeated in war. The first expression here is to fight a losing battle. To fight a losing battle. So this means to try hard to do something when there's no chance that you will succeed. There's no way to win. For example, trying to keep your car clean in Minnesota in the winter is fighting a losing battle. It's fighting a losing battle because there's no way to keep your car clean in Minnesota in the winter. Because no matter how clean you get it, once you drive on the road, it's going to get dirty again. So it's a losing battle, which means there's no way to succeed or win the battle. So to fight an uphill battle means you're doing something that's very difficult, but you can possibly succeed. Fighting a losing battle means that there's no way to succeed. There's no way to win. So you're just continuing to fight or to do something even though you can't succeed in it. To go down fighting is to continue to fight or make a strong, determined effort even though you're likely to fail or lose. So even if you're going to lose, even if you're not going to be successful, you're going to try your best until the very end. That means to go down fighting. For example, he may have lost the election, but he went down fighting. For example, whether you like him or dislike him, Donald Trump lost the election and he went down fighting, which means he continued to try and win or get reelected even until the very end, until the day almost of the inauguration of Joe Biden. So we can say that Donald Trump went down fighting. He's not president now, so he lost, but he continued to try and win the election or to get reelected as president again, even though he was losing. So he went down fighting. So any situation where you continue to make an effort, even though you're going to lose or fail. And then when we finally fail, we wave the white flag. To wave the white flag is to offer a sign of surrender or defeat, or to yield or give in. For example, if you want to have a peaceful marriage, sometimes you just need to wave the white flag instead of trying to win the argument. So in traditional warfare, when an army or a military would wave the white flag means peace or surrender. So waving the white flag means you're going to stop fighting. You're done fighting. You want peace. So in any situation where you decide not to argue, not to fight, you can wave the white flag. So if a husband and a wife are fighting and the husband says, I don't want to keep doing this, the husband might say, I'm going to wave the white flag. That just means he's going to stop fighting because he wants peace. And then there's the aftermath of war. The aftermath is what happens after the war. So one expression from this is the term casualties. So the casualties are the people or person hurt or killed in a war or other destructive event or something prevented by an event. For example, in politics, truth is always the first casualty. So anybody who gets hurt or killed in a battle or in a war, we call this person a casualty. Now here in this sentence, in politics, truth is always the first casualty. We're saying that in politics, truth dies. Truth gets killed because they don't respect the truth in politics. So we call truth here a casualty, like truth is a dying person or a dead person. The next expression here is collateral damage. Collateral damage are things or people that are destroyed or hurt by a bad situation just because they're near to it. For example, whenever two people get divorced, there's always collateral damage. First and foremost, the couple's children are hurt. So collateral damage means anything that's hurt or destroyed. Collateral means that it's next to it. So co means with and lateral just means next to. So these are the things that you didn't try to hurt or you didn't try to destroy, but they got hurt or they got destroyed just because they were near a bad situation. So in the picture here, we can see these children are affected by the war because this building was destroyed, right? So if they don't have shelter, if they don't have food, if they don't have clothing, we can call them collateral damage. We could call the building collateral damage if they didn't mean to blow it up. But anything that gets hurt or destroyed by accident or unintentionally in a situation, that's collateral damage. And then we've got peacetime. So the first expression here is to make peace. Make peace with someone or make peace with something. And this means to reconcile with or accept something that previously was a source of stress, conflict, etc. For example, you need to make peace with the fact that you are going to have to do a lot of homework if you want to be successful in college. And you think, I don't want to do a lot of homework, right? Well, if you want to go to college, if you want to get a degree, then you're going to have to do homework. So we can say you have to make peace with that fact. And so you might hear this expression, make peace with the fact that. You might hear this all together sometimes. Any situation where you just have to accept the way that it is. You have to make peace with it. To keep the peace is to avoid or prevent an argument. For example, it was my job to keep the peace between my younger sisters. So the idea here is that, when you have brothers and sisters often fight with each other, right? So you can think of their fights as like little battles in a war. Now, if you're trying to keep everything peaceful, then you are keeping the peace. You're trying to keep everybody happy and together. And then the last expression here is to be at peace. To say that somebody is at peace, usually it means that they're dead. It's a gentle way of saying that they're dead. For example, he battled cancer for 5 years, but now he is finally at peace. Now, if we view life as a conflict, if we think of life like it's a war, then when is the war finally over? Well, the war is over when we're dead, right? And when we're dead, when the war is over, then we have peace. So that's it for this lesson. I hope it was helpful for you. Thanks for watching.